Good morning, children. Today we are going to discuss about the discovery of cell, unicellular, multicellular organisms, the cell wall, the plasma membrane, their functions, their structure, etc. Okay, from the chapter The Fundamental Unit of Life. Okay, now what is a cell, children? How do you define a cell? Yeah, cell is the basic fundamental unit of life, or also you can define a cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life. What is that? Cell is the structural and functional unit of life. Why do you call it a structural and functional unit, children? Because now you know that each and every animal and plant body is made up of cell or cells. That is either one cell or many cells. Right. So that's why we call them as structural unit, because the whole body is made up of cell. Okay. Now why it is called as the functional unit? Because you know that, for example, in amoeba is made up of only single cell, right? And it still can carry out all the functions like digestion, respiration, excretion, and all the other functions as any higher organism does. Yes or no? Yes. So that's why it is called as a fundamental unit of life, because it regulates the functions inside the cell. Clear? Okay. So we know that animals or organisms which possess or which have only one cell, a single cell in their body, are called as unicellular organisms. What are they? Uni means one. Cellular, unicellular organisms. Right? And what do we call the animals or organisms with many number of cells? Yes, they are called as multicellular animals. Okay, what are multicellular? Those animals which have more than one cell in their body are called as what? Multicellular organisms. Clear? These are all examples. Paramecia is an example of a unicellular animal. Amoeba is yet another example of unicellular animal. Right? Children, in multicellular organisms, you know that in unicellular organisms, all the functions is done by the same single cell. Right? Whereas in multicellular organisms, what is the case? All these functions are done by different systems, separate systems in their bodies, right? So we can say in higher organisms we have what? Division of labor. What is that? Division of labor. That is, each and every cells or particular group of cells does one particular function. Another group of cells will do another function, or another organ will do another function. Okay, right? So like that, we have our muscle cells. There are muscle cells in the body, blood cells, fat cells, etc. Now we know that every plant and animal body is made up of cell or cells, right? Now, what are the parts of any cell? What are the parts? Yeah, they have, each cell is made up of plasma membrane or cell wall, which forms the outer covering of the cell, right? Plasma membrane or cell wall, which forms the outer covering of the cell, right? And what are the other parts of a cell? Yeah, in the middle of the cell you find a rounded structure which is called the nucleus. What is that? Nucleus, right? And inside the cell you can find a liquid like substance present, which is the cytoplasm. So what are the three components of any cell, children? What are the three components? Tell me. Yeah, it is the cell wall or plasma membrane, the nucleus, and the cytoplasm. Right. We'll be looking through all the components of the cell and its function, its structure, etc. Okay. Let us first go to the cell plasma membrane. Okay. Right. So what is the plasma membrane made up of? Or where do you find this plasma membrane? Yes, the plasma membrane is the outer covering of the animal cell. The animal cell have an outer covering called the plasma membrane, right? And what is it made up of, children? It is made up of the lipid layers. These are the lipid. These yellow colored structures are the lipid, and also proteins. You can simply say what are they made up of? They are made up of proteins and lipids. Clear? Okay. And what is the function of this plasma membrane? Because it forms the outer covering, should be the function? Yes, it helps in protection. And also there are cells are joining each other, right? And things should move from one cell to the other, or from cell to outside the environment, or from the environment substances should pass inside the cells. Clear? So this cell or the plasma membrane helps in the movement of substances in and out of the cell. Okay, and that too, children, you should know that it doesn't allow all the substances to pass in and out. Okay, it allows only certain substances to pass in and out of the cell. Okay, and that is why it is called as, what is it called? It is called as semi-permeable membrane. What is that? Semi-permeable membrane. Clear? Okay. In the case of amoeba, for example, in the case of amoeba, you know this plasma membrane is highly flexible. Unlike the cell wall which is very thick and rigid and intact, whereas the plasma membrane is very flexible, right? And this flexibility of this animal cell helps the amoeba to, it's an example, same thing happens in many unicellular organisms also. This helps amoeba to take in food materials inside the body by the process called what? Endocytosis. Endocytosis. Right. So what is the process by which amoeba engulf or take in food material? Not only food, even oxygen, air, whatever it is from the environment, when it takes inside, it is called as endocytosis. Clear? Okay. So what are the things you should remember about plasma membrane, children? They are the outer covering of the animal cell. It is semi-permeable and it is highly flexible. Clear? Now we'll see cell wall. Now the cell wall, as I told you, is the outer covering of the plant cell. Clear? Okay. Now the cell wall also helps to, as in the case of plasma membrane, the cell wall also helps in protection, of course, protecting the plant cell. Yes, the plant cell from the external injuries, the external factors, etc. And also it helps in the movement of substances in and out of the cell. Right? Okay. So where do you find this cell wall? In not only in the case of plants, also in the case of fungi, bacteria, and also the plants. Okay, because fungi, bacteria, both of them also have this outer cell wall. Clear? And the cell wall is very, very rigid covering of these organisms. Okay, right. And we were telling about the passing of substances in and out of the cell. Okay, what is the process called? Yes, it is called as osmosis. Now, how can you define osmosis, children? Yes, osmosis is the movement of substances or water, especially water, from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. Okay, that is very important. You should not forget to write semi-permeable membrane. Okay. Children, what is diffusion now? Have you heard of diffusion somewhere? In chemistry, you might have heard diffusion. What is diffusion? It is same as osmosis. It is also the movement of substances from higher concentration to a lower concentration. But there is no semi-permeable membrane involved here. Okay? Right. Okay. For osmosis, see, this diffusion, children. Diffusion, as I told you, is the movement of substances from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. Okay, and there is no semi-permeable membrane involved here. Clear? Okay, can you say some examples where diffusion happens? Yes, for example, when your mother is cooking in the kitchen when she is making biryani and a nice smell comes, isn't it? That is from the kitchen. The smell of the food or the smell of the spices or whatever it is passes from the kitchen where the molecules are more, isn't it, to a region where there is less, to the other rooms. Clear? That is diffusion. Or when you open a scent bottle in one of the rooms, the smell will come in the other rooms also. Clear? Okay. Now tell me, in living systems, in our living organisms, where all does osmosis occur? Yes. You have done an experiment activity also, right? Very good. Yes, that is it. In the case of when your mother wants to make idli or dosha, what does she do? She soaks some rice and also black gram in water for few hours, isn't it? Have you seen the rice before soaking and after it has got soaked? You can see the difference, right? Here what happens? The water moves from outside, from the container to inside of the rice, and that is why the rice swells up. Clear? Okay. And all the process of happening in plants, that is absorption of water by the roots from the soil and movement of food from one cell to the other, everything happens. Transpiration, What is transpiration? Yes, it is the movement of, or it is the release of water by the plants to the outside air, atmosphere. Clear? But from the cells it has to go to the outside. All these are examples where osmosis happens. Clear, children? Okay. Now you should know what conditions govern the movement of materials in and outside the cell. Okay, when water moves from a cell to outside of a cell, it is called as exosmosis. What is that? X means outside, right? Exosmosis. And the opposite is endosmosis. So when does exosmosis or exosmosis happens? What is the condition? Of course, there is or there should be concentration difference. What is that? There should be concentration difference. So here in these diagrams you can see. Okay, the red molecules are more to the left side than here. So from where to where the substance will move? Yeah, from here to here it moves, the red colored molecules. Clear? So from a higher to lower concentration the things is going to move. Until what time it will move, children? It goes on moving, it continues moving like that till all this molecule goes here. Is it? No. When both of these concentration becomes same. Right? Okay. And also you should know the 3 conditions, children. For example, I gave you example as your mother soaks rice in water, right? With that water, you compare one rice and the water outside. Where the water concentration is more? Yes, it is outside, right? Outside the rice, the water is more than inside the rice. From where to where the water has to go? From outside to inside, right? When such a solution, children, such a solution where the water concentration is high than the solute concentration. What is a solute? Solute is the substance dissolved in the water or solvent. Clear? Okay. Now, if you give something in a plain water, what is the kind of solution? It is called, where the water concentration is more outside, it is called a hypotonic solution. What is that? Hypotonic solution. Now, whenever a cell or an animal cell or a plant cell is placed in a hypotonic solution, what will happen, children? The water, because the water is more outside, right? The water moves from outside to inside of the cell. Clear? Inside of the cell. But what will happen to a animal cell when continuously the water goes inside? What will happen at one stage? I told you the plasma membrane of animal cell is highly flexible. Sometimes it may break. The cell membrane will break as the continuously water enters into the cell. Whereas in plants I told they have a cell wall, isn't it? The cell wall is a rigid, not flexible cell wall, right? So when a plant cell is kept in hypotonic solution, the water starts entering into the plant cell. And it becomes tight, it becomes so full that this condition is called as turgid. What is that? Turgid condition. But Here the plant cell is not going to burst because of the presence of cell wall. Okay, right. Now for example, for another, this is first condition, which is when a cell is placed in a hypotonic solution. When a cell is placed in a medium which has a higher salt concentration, for example, you are placing a cell in a salt water. But compare the cell and the water. Where the salt is more, where the water content is more. The water content is inside the cell is more than outside. Okay, and the salt is more outside than inside the cell. Clear? So from what should move, from where to where it should move? Yeah, the water will move from higher to lower. That means from where to where? From inside the cell to the outside of the cell. Clear, children? So such a solution of high salt concentration, high solute concentration solution is called as hypertonic solution. Hypertonic in the case, this we tell in the terms of salt. Okay, children, we tell the hypertonic or hypotonic in the terms of salt. Okay, but water will move from higher to lower, definitely. Clear? Okay. But when you place a cell, either a plant cell or an animal cell, in a hypertonic solution, what will happen? In a plant cell, the water will start from where to where? From the cell to the outside. The water starts moving, it just keeps moving and moving and moving, and finally what will happen? All the liquid, the cytoplasm content, everything is going out. But the cell organelles, the nucleus and other things cannot go out. So what will happen, children? All the cell contents will come and gather in one corner. Okay, and what is this condition called? Or what is the cell called now? This is called as plasmolysis. Okay, right. Plasmolysis. How do you define plasmolysis? It is the shrinking of cell, especially the plant cell content, away from the cell wall. When you place a cell in hypertonic solution. Clear, children? Okay.